Hello, everyone. Today I will tell you about the first 6 episodes from the anime Parasite, The Doctrine of Life Put Likes. If you want to continue, stop mysterious parasite creatures have penetrated the earth, whose only task is the destruction of humanity. They eat the brain and then replace the head with themselves and control the body so they can feed on other people. Some parasites eat the families and friends of their carriers, and some Shinichi was lucky when the parasite tried to get into his head. He was listening to music with headphones. Then the parasite tried to get into the brain through the circulatory system through his arm, but Shinji pulled it over the wire from the headphones, had to stay in the snake's hand, and soon tried to tell his parents everything. But they did not believe him in the morning when he came down to breakfast. His hand seemed numb, and on the way to school, she began to live her own life at all. He grabbed his classmate Saito Memorana by the chest, because of which she was terribly offended. I didn't want anything like that. Then an incredible thing happened at all. Shinichi saved the girl by stopping the car that almost crushed her at home. He decided to check if the hand really belonged to him, and when he was going to stick a knife into her, she turned into a shapeless talking creature. She still spoke badly, so Shinichi could not question him. After that, his appetite woke up, although he had eaten little before. His parents even decided that he was ill. Meanwhile, in the city, they began to find the dismembered corpses of the maniac who had done this was called the Butcher Killer in the morning. Shinichi woke up and saw his right hand turned into a parasite and was studying books. He said that he had to absorb Zumi's brain, but could not now. Already he grew up and he will have to live in the place of his right hand on the way to school. He felt another representative of his species, despite the protests of Shi. He insisted that they find him another parasite turned out to be in the dog's body, and he attacked. They had to kill this creature with his right hand. Meanwhile, the parasites are capturing more and more people. One of them saved the girl from rapists, and when they caught up with him to take revenge, he killed them and the rescued girl at the same time. At physical education, Shinichi reconciled with Murano and Nagaya. Didn't like it. He wanted to meet her. So he decided to deal with Zumi. No guy started his to beat up, and she's right hand of nobody answered him. So the boy ran away in fear. Now he will strike, calls himself Miji, which means right hand. When he and Shinichi find themselves on a busy street, Miji feel that they're being watched. They go to a wasteland, and the pursuer comes here. Seeing that Miji has not captured the head of the carrier, he offers to become part of his body so they will become stronger and live longer, but Miji refuses. He is not sure that he will be able to settle into a new body, and without a carrier, he will not survive. Miji cuts off the head of his opponent, and he dies after this incident, and soon went to a cafe with Murano, and on the way back, they bullied the kitten Shine. She freed the unfortunate animal and drove the boys away. In Moran's eyes, he became a hero. That same night, Tamiya River and Mr. conceived a child. Their bodies were also invaded by parasites, and June worries that he can't tell anyone about what happened to him. Besides, he and Migi know that the killer butcher is an alien parasite. Meanwhile, Shinichi's parents begin to suspect that something is wrong with Duzumi. He seems to have changed and become somehow different on the way to school. Migs feel a very strong parasite when they come to study. They are announced that a new teacher at school, Rikote Shinchai, understand that she is the parasite they felt, and she notices the river. Nobody's after school there. I invite Izumi to the teacher's room for a conversation. She notices Migi and decides that this is a rather unusual symbiosis of a parasite and a human, and makes an appointment outside the school where they can talk calmly to me. Tamiya comes with Mr. He doesn't like Shinichi. He believes that he should be killed, and at the same time, Migi, since he failed to capture the head of the Dizun carrier, came to school again. Mr. Amigi showed up there and felt that he had come for them. The director announced the evacuation of school children because of an outsider in the building. Mr. Ray had already killed several teachers. Midi wanted to hide behind other students, and then while Mr. was busy destroying them, kill him himself, but Shinichi was against it. He ran into an empty corridor and barricaded himself there. He and Midi made a new battle plan, while Izumi would have to help the parasite to do this. Miji cut off the leg of a chair and gave Shinichi as a weapon. Mr. Jumped into the corridor from the lower floor inside the barricades created by Zumi, and they both had nowhere to run. The limited space played into their hands Shinichi, while Miji was fighting with Mr. And Zumi was slowly advancing. He hid the leg of the chair in his pant leg, and when they came within striking distance, Shinchi plunged the guns into the opponent's chest. Mr. did not expect such a turn. He began to bleed, and so that his body would not die, he pushed the leg further and escaped. Shinichi did not follow him. He did not want to become a murderer, but he could not want to become a murderer. But he could not believe that some man had killed him. He needed to move into a new body in order to survive. He found in the laboratory, where at that moment Reiko Tamiya was hiding. But when he entered, Kami jumped out of the window, blowing up a balloon from oxygen. Soon after this incident, life got into its rut at school. They found out that River was expecting a child and called for a conversation. She did not want to answer questions from colleagues and therefore simply quit. After leaving school, she intended to kill Shinichi because she no longer had to hide. However, after talking to him, she changed her mind. She was sure that Izumi was changing because of the symbiosis with the parasite and wanted to see what it would lead to when the River returned home. Here, Mother came to her there. I tried to deceive her, but the woman realized that her daughter was in front of her. I had to kill her. Shinichi's parents decided to go for a rest in nature, and Izumi was against it, because if he was not around, one of the parasites could kill them. But Miji advised him to let them go away from big cities. There was less chance of a parasite attack. Then Shinichi told his parents that he would not mind if they left, and they went on vacation. A car with a man and a woman was driving along a country road. The man was distracted and got into an accident. His companion was not fastened and flew out through the windshield, and he remained relatively intact. It turned out that the woman was a parasite. When her body died, she cut off the man's head and took his body. But it was difficult to manage it. The parasite needed a female body that was more familiar to manage. On the way home, Shinichi saw Nagai being shot down in the alley, and he stood up for him. However, Migi was asleep at that moment, and Zuma had to deal with the hooligans himself. He was also beaten up, but he did not leave. Then, Kanak and Masima, who was here, told her and put him straight. She looked into Shinichi's eyes and saw something frightening there because Izumi stood up for Nagai, and at school he began to be respected, but the guys from Mitsuha gangs decided to teach him a lesson for this act. They grabbed Moran and started beating Shinichi when he tried to free her. Migi was ready to intervene and kill the Hogans, but Izumi restrained him. Nagai and the guys from school helped him. They taught the scoundrels after that Kana came up to talk to Shinichi. She began to suspect that he was hiding something. Midi said that Kana felt his parasite, who was looking for a woman's body to move into it, found a married couple. They turned out to be Shinichi's parents. That his father was alive in a collision with a parasite. He managed to call his son and inform him that his mother became a monster after a while. Nabuka returned home, but Shinichi refused to believe that his mother was captured by a parasite. She took advantage of this and pierced his chest. Miga had to move into Izumi's body to heal his wound. After waking up, Shinichi felt that he had become to others. His eyesight improved and he felt differently. Migi also changed. Now he needs to sleep for 4 hours a day. The only way he can fully recover his strength. Shinichi got a call from the hospital and was informed that his father was alive. And Jun got ready and went to him. The way to the hospital was suggested to him by a local girl. Her mother gave rooms for guests and Shinich stayed with them. His father was convinced that the monster who killed his wife was actually alive on the beech tree because she was seen at the hotel where the couple stayed, but she did not know who his mother had become, so he decided to keep watch at his father's hospital so that she would not kill him anywhere. She would come for him, Izumi. He was sure, and at that moment he wanted to destroy the monster that killed his mother. Finally, Miji felt a parasite nearby and Shine-Chi rushed after him. He became stronger and faster. He even managed to jump over a high wall on the beach, and at that moment, Migi realized that somehow he changed his carrier. That's all for today. Put likes and write comments if you want more similar videos. Hello everyone. Today, you will find the second part of the story about the anime Parasite, the Doctrine of Life. Put likes if you want to continue. Izumi Shinichi was sure that there was a parasite on the beach that had taken his mother's body. He wanted to finish him off, but he made a mistake. Izumi met a man named Mamoru Uda. Hiri, like Shinichi himself, was the carrier of the parasite. Only he took part of his body and head, but did not touch the brain. The parasite attacked him when Mamoru was desperate and wanted to lose his life. He fell off a cliff, and the creature that penetrated his body had to save him. Because of this, it did not have time to eat his brain. Izumi and Mamoru did not fight because they are very similar. Shinichi even told his new friend his story. And Yuda promised to help. He lives not far from the hospital where Izumi's father is lying. If the killer of his mother appears there, Yuda will inform Shinchai about it. When Izumi and Migi were left alone, the parasite told how he changed the host's body to heal his wounds. He divided into tiny particles, and they dispersed throughout the body. They could not return back because of this. Shinichi became so strong and fast, he ceased to be himself. Some part of him was replaced by Migi molecules. Mamoru Udo really discovered the parasite that killed Izumi's mom. He informed Shinchi about it, and they ran to the agreed place. However, Migi fell asleep on the way, leaving Izumi the blade as a weapon. Yes, but he still could not kill his mother. He loved her too much and was afraid to harm her body. Mamoru helped him a minute earlier. He fought with the parasite, and she wounded him. Now he hit his back and cut off her head after that. Shinichi returned home with his father. At the same time, Tamiya Ruka asked one of her brothers to follow him. She is interested in how Shinchi's body develops in symbiosis with Migi. But Izumi is followed not only by Ryuko's friend, he is also interested in Kanu. She feels him and cannot explain this ability of hers. Kana's boyfriend, Mitsuo, is secretly in love with her. He notices that Kana pays a lot of attention to Shinichi and decides to deal with him. He had already beaten him once, but this time it didn't work out. Izumi became stronger and easily defeated the opponent. At that moment, Satomi Murana noticed them. Shinichi called her for a walk, but she could not get rid of the thought that he had become different after a trip to the hospital to his father. And after a while, she found evidence of this. Izumi felt the puppy knocked down on the road. There was no way to save him, and he took him in his arms so that the baby died in peace. Murana was also with him. But when Shinichi threw the puppy into the trash after his death, she realized that a stranger was in front of her. They quarreled, and Izumi realized that he should have done otherwise. He buried the puppy under a tree. Soon after, he met Shimada Hideo at school. It was Ryoko who sent him to observe Shinichi. He made it clear that he did not want to kill people, he just needed to study them. Hideo was a handsome man, so the girls immediately liked him, especially Yuko. She began to spy on him secretly and even drew in her notebook. Kana sensed Hideo's presence, but couldn't figure out why. After all, before she felt only Shinichi, she told why about this ability of hers, and Izumi warned her not to approach people if she felt them at a distance. He knew that Kana was picking up waves of parasites that could kill her. However, Kana did not listen to him. She again felt the presence of the parasite and decided that it was Izumi, but it turned out to be Hideo. At that moment, Mitsuo appeared and stood up for her friend. Hideo had to take him to a deserted place and teach him a lesson. People from the police came to Shinichi's father. They explained to him that it was impossible to tell, that his wife had been beheaded by a parasite. Otherwise, panic would begin. Now the authorities are looking for a way to identify these monsters, and until they find him, we must remain silent. But he didn't listen to them. He told his son everything. Izumi wasn't surprised. He calmly listened to his father, but he didn't say a word to me that a parasite also lives in his hand. Meanwhile, Yuka began to suspect that something was wrong with Hideo. She followed him and found out that he had inhuman abilities. Yuko guessed that Hideo was one of those parasites that the police were looking for. Her brother told her about them. He drew a monster according to the description of Shinichi's father. However, Yuka was in no hurry to hand over Hideo to the police. At first, she wanted to talk to him. She invited him to a meeting in one of the school classes and took acid with her. When Hideo came, he confessed that he really was no longer human and then began to turn into a monster. Migi sensed this and informed Shinichi. When Hideo tried to attack Yuko, acid got on his face and he could not turn back into a person. He wanted to kill Yuka, but the girl escaped through the window and jumped to the ground. She was noticed by the guys from the playground and went to see what was the matter. A teacher met them in the corridor and they went to Hideo together. But he killed all the MiGs, and Shinichi decided that it would be more prudent to evacuate the school with everyone and leave the police to deal with the monster. But once on the street, Shinichi found out that Moran's class was still in the building. He was afraid for his girlfriend and rushed inside here. He saw the guys from her class running out, but there was no Moran among them. Izumi went to look for her. Meanwhile, Haido was crushing the guys from her class in the corridor, but Morano survived. She was hiding with two classmates when Shinichi I found them. The guys were scared of him and ran away. They decided that he was also a monster since he was not afraid of the bloody bodies in the corridor. Hideo was waiting for them around the corner. He finished them off. Izumi grabbed Moran and jumped out of the window with her, being at a safe distance from the school. he left her and decided to act himself. At that moment, the police came to the school, but Hideo easily killed them. Shinichi understands that he is indirectly to blame for what happened because he knew that Hideo was a parasite and did nothing. He and Migi climb to the roof of a neighboring building so that Hideo does not smell them and launch a stone at him, which pierces him through and Hideo dies. The authorities take his body and study it in laboratories. After that, they conclude that even the smallest fragment of the parasite separated from the rest of the organism will live for some time. Therefore, it is necessary to give society a way to check people for parasites. They decide to introduce a trend to pull out each other's hair when they meet. If it is a parasite's hair, it will move. However, this trend turns into a tragedy. A tipsy girl decides to pull out her boyfriend's hair, and he turns out to be a parasite. He has to eat her. Since Kano began to feel Izumi, her abilities have been enhanced now. She sees the same dream every night. Terrible monsters attack her, but Shinchi appears and saves her. In real life, Izumi doesn't show much interest in her, but he's thinking of telling her about the Mig. However, Migi is against it. He promises to kill Kana if Shinichi lets it slip. Meanwhile, there are more and more parasites. One of them wants to explore the possibilities of his body and comes to the Yakuza for this. He kills them all and gets injured himself, but leaves unharmed. Shinichi and Moran establish a relationship. They reconcile and begin to meet, while from time to time Shinichi's heart aches. This happens in those moments when he feels strong emotions. At such moments, he becomes a man again. Kana sees Izumi and Murano kissing and becomes jealous. She calls him and sets up a meeting. Kana wants to prove that she and Izumi are meant for each other, otherwise, why does she feel him at a distance? Coming to the meeting, Shinchi and Migi noticed politicians agitating local residents. All the politicians were parasites. Izumi and Migi come to the conclusion that they want to be in power to cover their own when they attack people. Shinchi still decides to tell Kana about himself. He invites her to a deserted place, and then, after making sure that Migi is sleeping, lays out everything as it is. But Kana does not believe him. She asks to prove that a parasite lives in his hand. Kana is sure that she can distinguish Shinichi from any other person. So she promised that until she gets proof, she will respond only to his waves. But Kana was mistaken when Izumi appointed her a new meeting. She decided to come to the call of her telepathic sense. She thought she would meet Shinichi, but I met a monster. He tried to kill her. Izumi felt it and came to the rescue, but it was too late. The parasite pierced Kana. Shinichi was so furious that he finished him off with his bare hands. The authorities found the remains of this parasite and took them away for research after the funeral. Mitsuo attacked Izumi. He accused Shinichi that he did not protect Kana, and Shinichi hit him back and then left. He himself could not understand who he had turned into, but he was definitely no longer a man. That's all for today. Put likes and write comments if you want more similar videos.